Witsherface. You laugh at all our jokes. Your drinks have been laced, and you tell all your friends about Witsherface.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to Witsherface Zoom TV. I'm Carol Smirkwood, your host for this evening, and I can't wait to introduce you to all the exciting guests we have waiting for you. But first of all, I suppose I have to introduce you to my co-host, the very lovely Kelly Willy Booby. Kelly, are you there?
Evening, Carol. How are you? So great to be here this evening on Witsherface Zoom TV.
Oh, Kelly, booby by name, booby by nature, eh?
Oh, Carol, Smirkwood by name, Smirky by nature.
Kelly, you're going to catch your death if you don't put those puppies away.
Woof, 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 woof. Down, boy, down, boy.
What an exciting lineup we have, Kelly.
Haven't we just, Carol? A very exciting lineup. And, you know, Carol, some of us really do need a little bit more relationship advice, relationship reassurance. How do you keep hold of your man, Carol? Wouldn't we all just love to know the answer to that? So I'm very excited to introduce our first guest, our very own relationship counsellor, Ms. Carmel McCrackety. Welcome back to the show, Carmel. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Of course I'm here. Where else would I be? So what I'd like to talk to you about is this lovely TV series, The Normal People. You know, that one that everybody's watching.
Yeah.
So I had an email from a girl, Fenella, said that she had been enjoying it and said to her live-in boyfriend, you know, I could write a book and call it Silly People for all the idiots I have dated. And then her boyfriend had to say, well, why don't you? And then it could be a TV series, and then that will solve all our financial problems. So she said, right, well, I will. So the next day, she's sitting at her computer, and the boyfriend comes in, and he says, what are you doing looking out the window? I thought you were writing Silly People. And she said, well, yes, but I'm thinking. So he went off kind of in a huff. And then a few hours later comes back and he says, you have the pencil yoke all emptied. And he said, what are you doing with the pencils when you're supposed to be writing Silly People? And she says, well, I don't know. It suddenly looked as if the pencil box needed tidying suddenly. And then, he went off in the huff, and I don't know. Then he finds her about an hour later in the kitchen, and he says, what are you doing scoffing a big Easter egg, which was meant for your niece? And she said, well, I never gave it to her because of the COVID. And then she just cracked and spotted her nylon spatula lying on the counter beside the wooden one and just hit what was left of the egg, which wasn't very much, in his direction. So my advice, Vanilla, is to chuck the bugger before because he doesn't get you. You know, he doesn't understand you. And for those watching, remember the little test I invented. It's called I Would Rather. And if you would rather, then he's toast, okay? So, for example, I would rather be drinking champagne with my girlfriends on a flight to Hawaii rather than looking at your ugly mug. Or I would rather be receiving an Oscar for the great movie I have written about what a drag it is to be with you. Or I would rather be Kate Moss. No, that's it. I would just rather be Kate Moss. So if that's the case, everyone out there, move on, girls. So there we are. There we have it. Okay.
That's lovely. Carmel, wonderful advice there, and a great game to be playing of a lockdown evening. Yes?
Yes, absolutely. I would rather. You can think of some great ones, I'm sure. Maybe not as good as mine, but then I'm getting paid.
Well, thank you, Carmel. You've really been a wonderful guest again this evening. We hope to see you again sometime.
I'd love to see you girls. Goodbye now. Goodbye.
Goodbye now. Goodbye now. I would rather have an interpreter, Carol, for Carol McCrackety. I can't even say. I feel drunk after frankly hearing all that. I'm saying Carol, I'm saying Carmel, I'm saying Kieran, I'm saying Connor. I don't know what I'm saying.
No, but that's nothing unusual for you, is it, Kelly? Oh, stop now. I mean it. Moving on to our next guest, our next exciting guest, is actually a little change of pace. We're moving on to our politics reporter. It's Joanna Winey. Joanna, are you there?
Hello, ladies. How are we this evening?
Very well, Joanna. All the better for seeing you.
Oh, you're too kind, Kelly. Well, our main headline this week, following the #1 pop song by US President Donald Trump, it seems there might now may be another unexpected musical rival. Indeed, the top spot currently taken by Donald Trump's "If You Don't Want Corona" is now threatened by the Prime Minister's right-hand man. Yes, Dominic Cummings and his musical offering, "Take That Road Trip One More Time." And the new release goes a little bit like this. Oh, Boris, Boris, how was I supposed to know that I had corona? Oh, Boris, Boris, where was I supposed to go? Wait, my father's a landowner on the M1 for 6 hours. Only stopped once to look at lovely flowers, lovely bluebells. My vision was so blurry, and I had to test my driving, you see. Could I see? Of course, my 4-year-old just had to pee. I won't resign. Take that road trip one more time. Oh, Boris, Boris. I love your roses. Oh, Boris, Boris, I will not say sorry. Oh, Boris, Boris, I don't even like castles anyway. I need to stress my eyes' blurriness made this journey unnecessary. Trip, it was not my wife's birthday, so give me a pardon in your lovely rose garden. I won't resign. Take that road trip one more time. And that's all we have time for today, ladies. Back to the ladies at Witsherface Zoom TV.
Thank you, Joanna. See you next week. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Carol, what can I say about that performance? I think Joanna Winey really has a gift there, don't you?
She's got some set of pipes on her, I'll give her that.
Yes, some set of pipes is right, Carol. Anyway, shall we move on, Carol? We've got a very, very special guest this evening. I wonder what she will have to say about Joanna Winey's #1 hit. It's her very own First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon. We're so lucky that she's joining us on the show this evening. Good evening, Nicola. How are you?
I'm not doing too badly during this lockdown. How are you two doing?
Well, Nicola, I mean, we're just quite frankly flabbergasted that you've joined us on the show this evening, aren't we, Carol?
Yes, I can't quite believe my luck. I'm a little bit in love with you. I mean,
So am I, First Minister. In fact, all of us at Witsherface are frankly quite in love with you. It's wonderful that you could join us this evening. So, First Minister, you have been an absolute champion guiding us through this horrendous time. Thank you for your guidance. How are you feeling on where we are on lockdown right now, First Minister?
Well, for me, lockdown means lockdown. It doesn't mean going driving 260 miles from your first property and then going to your second property where your elderly parents live. That was an absolute load of nonsense coming from Dominic Cummings. And quite frankly, he should be on his way. Because all those Tory BAMs in Westminster should, quite frankly, hear the message loud and clear from the British public, not just the Scottish public. And that message is, get it up, ye.
Yes, First Minister, that is right. We at Witsherface also think that Dominic needs to get it right up him. First Minister, what would you say to anyone out there that was doubting their eyesight?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't put a 4-year-old child in the seat, in the back seat, when you thought you might crash the car. And I probably wouldn't put my spouse in either. Then I probably wouldn't drive 30 miles, and it just happens to be a picturesque spot. And it just happens to be my wife's birthday today. But I'm doing this to test my eyesight. Aye, right. So first of all, I would probably want an eye test under the normal circumstances. But obviously, right now, if you can't get an eye test straight away, I just simply would not suggest going in your car and driving anywhere. I mean, if anyone does that, then they're just a giant ball bag.
I would agree with that statement, First Minister, yes. Carol, would you like to ask the First Minister anything other than eyesight and Dominic Cummings? Would you like to ask anything?
Well, I wondered, First Minister, if you did have to choose, in the unlikely situation you had to choose between Bojo and Donald Trump for a pump, which one would you choose?
That is honestly a really horrible thought. And quite frankly, I would rather say neither. But I'm inclined to go with Donald, mainly just because he's got wee hands. And the wee hands, I might not feel them all over my body just quite as much. And also, I've heard down there is a wee bit on the small side, a wee bit like a button mushroom. So maybe I wouldn't feel that either, and it would be over quite quickly. As opposed to Bojo, the absolute clown, who is a wee bit on the bigger side. So my answer would be obviously neither. But if I had to absolutely choose, I suppose I would go with the Tango Man.
First Minister, in the press conference this week, when Boris Bojos was asked if the British public deserved an apology because of recent events, his response was, "Wash your hands. Remember, we must wash our hands." If you could say one thing to the British public right now, First Minister, what would it be?
That would be, I wish we could wash our hands of those absolute Tory BAMs. That's what I wish. And I think, to be honest, that should be the new slogan.
First Minister, we couldn't agree with you more at Witsherface TV, and it has been truly an honour for you joining us this evening. Thank you, First Minister. We salute you.
Thank you.
No bother. I love Witsherface. It's brilliant.
Thank you, First Minister. I'll keep saluting you forever. Carol, what a guess. Did you make a little puddle, Carol? I certainly did.
Just a little one,
Probably quite a big one for you, Carol. It's hard to control, isn't it?
Well, you've got a bladder the size of a walnut.
Well, what a show it was this evening. Thank you so much to our very special guests, Carmel McCrackerty, Joanna Winey, and of course our First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon. Join us again next week on Witsherface Zoom TV. Bye-bye.
Cheery
Cheery by the news.